So here we go. I am ready and I'm so excited to introduce this year's keynote speaker, Frank Velásquez Jr. Frank is a storyteller extraordinaire, social justice warrior, and community connector. With a heart as big as his vision, Frank dances on the front lines of change. Armed with an unshakable belief of obtaining racial and gender equity, whether he's dropping knowledge on a conference stage or storytelling behind the scenes. Frank's passion for social justice is as infectious as his smile. His creativity connects our stories, preserving each one's unique flavor like a delicious bowl of gumbo. As the founder of For the Hood and the mastermind behind the Ascending Leaders of Color Leadership program, he is forging paths for peeps of color to lead with more authenticity, courage, and joy. Because Frank because for Frank, advancing equity isn't just a job, it's a movement towards building generational wealth for communities of color to thrive. It is my pleasure to introduce him. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. And can everyone hear me? Okay, good. I see nodded heads. So I'm going to just go ahead, just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to put my presentation on the screen. Give me a quick nod if you can see it. Excellent. All right. So yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of this. Very thankful to Autumn and to Taryn and the entire team for bringing me on to do this. And so let's just dive right in. This presentation or this keynote is called "Why Agreeing to Disagree Isn't Enough," and how being curious breaks barriers. So the first thing I want to share is I kind of want to frame today's conversation in this way. So usually, I have a lot of geeked up energy, and so I promise it's temporary. So I might be talking fast at the beginning, but I promise within about 5 minutes I'll be in my rhythm. If you give me a nod of the head, let me know if you're okay with that. Okay, good. All right, the next thing is I do have a commitment to being authentic. Autumn, and again, the team, they know this, but I am now doing For the Hood full time. I had a day job that I called, and I am now today, I believe, is 11 weeks in. Not that I'm counting or anything, but in this space, I get to be me. I get to be Frank from For the Hood, not Frank from anything else but my business. And in that space, I am committed to being authentic. So again, just give me a quick nod of the head to let me know that you're good with that. Lena, I'm not seeing that head. Oh, now I see it, Lena. Thank you, Lena. I see your head nodding. All right. So the next thing, being authentic does not mean being disrespectful. I am likely going to be sharing some things that might challenge maybe the way you think about certain things, but I promise to deliver it in a very respectful manner. So again, my commitment is to being respectful. Again, give me a quick nod of the head if you're good with this. Excellent. Thank you, Taryn. Love that smile. All right, the next one is yeah, it is a keynote, but it's an interactive keynote, or as best as I can in the virtual space that we're in. So again, I need your interaction, and I saw the thumbs up already from Lena to make this keynote fire. So again, give me a quick nod of the head or those little flashing thumbs that just went up the screen. Yay. All right. So now here's what I would love for you to do in the chat box. If you could add, I told you what I needed, what I feel this will make it successful, but what will make it successful for you? So again, just put in the chat box really quickly and I'll kind of read some of the notes that come through, but what would make this a successful keynote for you? I see names coming in, but again, oh, I love that. One good laugh to start the day. Love that, Jan. What else would make this a successful keynote? Thought provoking. Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate that. Thoughtful questions. Oh, I love that, Taryn. Call to action. Love that, Allison. Let's go for a few more. Hopefully they pop in the chat box. I just love your premise. I'm already on board. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate that. All right. If any more pop in, Taryn, please just call them out for me. Oh, unique perspective. Thank you, Lena. All right. So I will give a woo woo to all of you for adding to that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to be playing a game, and I absolutely need your engagement, particularly either I know only one person at a time can speak, but if you put it in the chat box and in the interest of time, I may not be able to get to every question, but I'm hoping I can get to at least two or three for each of the five slides that I'll share shortly. All right, so the way we play this game is I'm going to give you five photos, and in each photo, there's going to be a prompt. Your task is to ask questions to learn more about me. And these are the types of questions you can ask me: yes or no questions, who questions, which questions, where, when, why, what, and how questions. So if you're ready to go, I'm ready. So here is the first of the five prompts with a photo. And again, the goal is to ask me any questions to learn more about me. Again, they would be yes, no questions, which, why, when, where, how, those types of questions. Does your grandmother live in another country? So I'll start with there. Uh, and the second question is related to that. Do your grandmothers live south of the border? So my grandmothers are both deceased now, but I believe they were both born in what is currently called Arizona before it became a state, which was in 1912. I hear some noises. Somebody want to ask a question? Okay, did they have their documentation? Tamara asks. Um, I believe yes. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe yes. Do I have a special memory of either one? Yes, I do. I wasn't particularly close to my dad's mother, um, than I was with my mom's mom, and I think it was because, well, I think there were several reasons. I know there was a lot of assumptions, but my dad's mom, and I've really started to think about this. Well, let me start with my parents. My parents were raised very differently from each of their parents, from how they were raised from their mothers. My dad's biological dad died in a mining accident. I believe he was 38 at the time. I believe my dad was around 11. And suddenly his mom finds herself with four kids, with a husband who passed away, and somehow I think there was family that they had in Tucson, so she moved in Tucson, where she ended up getting remarried, had two more kids, and very connected to her culture. Um, and then I think about my mom's mom, whose father was in prison. And so suddenly my mom's mom was raising five kids uh, by herself. And the way she really talked to her kids was, in order, if you want to succeed in this country, you have to assimilate. You have to speak English, you have to get an education, you have to do this, you got to do that. You got to just fit in. And in their upbringings, my dad and my mom, English is my first language because of those teachings that came across from my mom's side. That my mom was really just trying her best to help us assimilate. But the question was around my favorite memory. It is with my mom's mom. I feel, and I could be wrong, I feel like I was her favorite. So I always loved when she would just be extra kind with me, loving with me. She was a great cook. So I really, really was very connected to my grandmother because of her salsa, her beans, her tortillas. So that is my memory with my grandmother on my mom's side. Uh, that's what I really feel. And I think I just answered that one. What was favorite food they cooked for me? My grandmother on my dad's side, they made tamales. So I really love tamales from there, but really the food that I remember the most is on my mom's side. So in the interest of time, I'm going to go to the next slide. So thank you for that. All right, so the next one is relationships. So again, ask me any questions to learn more about me, relationships. Do I have siblings? Yes, I have a older sister and a younger brother. Am I married? No, but I can talk a little bit about that. I was in a relationship. I was married for about 20 years, but I would honestly say within the first year, it wasn't a good match. But I think I grew up in an era where you just kind of you think you're supposed to stick it out. And I would say, and it went through a lot of stuff in regards to just how that marriage moved through time. Spent the first 5 years in Tucson, then the next 5 years in Florida, then the next 3 years in Las Vegas. And in those moments, and then we came back in '07 back to Tucson. I was a little bit kicking and screaming. And that's when the recession happened. And suddenly I found, and I was doing like really cool, I had really cool jobs. I worked at Disney World. I worked in Las Vegas at some of the casinos there, but I didn't feel connected until I got to Pima Community College. So I got back to Tucson and then I landed at Pima College in 2010. And that I would say honestly was the first time I started to expand my relationships. So sadly, not sadly, that was likely the beginning of the end of my relationship with my spouse at the time, is because I started to find my folks. We were all trying to help students on their journeys to graduating, to doing what they wanted to do. And I started to expand my loving relationships. Found a lot of people at the college that felt like I did, like just finding this power of helping others. And I think that I don't know, scared or frightened my spouse. And mind you, it already wasn't a good relationship, but I would mark it as 2010 when I started at the college as the beginning of the end of the relationship, because then 5, 6 years later, we started the process of getting divorced. Who is a person you have had the longest relationship with, not family? Oh, wow. Wow, that's a really good question. I think I might have partially answered that already by saying I really didn't have like long relationships until I got to the college, which was in 2010. So there are a few people there that I still talk to at that college that I would consider really close friends, but I would say post-divorce, which was in 2016, was when I really started to expand those. So I would say, I don't know if it's sad or not, but I would say 2016 is probably what I would indicate as like really deep relationships. So the woman I was dating at the time, we're still on talking terms. So I would call her, yeah, 9 years would probably be the longest. Let's go for one more question around relationships. Do you find it easy to connect with others? Yes, I do. I feel, yeah, the connections. I feel like I'm a very relational person, which is interesting because I just literally told you all, like, oh, I didn't really start building relationships till 2010. But I've always felt like I've had the capacity for relationship building, and I really take it in a very intentional way now that anytime I meet somebody new, I really want to know about them. I want to know what their background is. I want to know what drives them, what gets them excited. And the more information I glean from them, I'm able then to kind of like find connections for myself. Like, oh, you have two siblings? Well, so do I. So I do feel that it's relatively easy for me to connect, although I will add this, Autumn, that I consider myself an extroverted introvert. So I don't always People assume that I'm extroverted, but the older I get, I'm leaning more into my introversion. And this goes back to my parents. My dad is a very extroverted person, and my mom is very introverted. So they were literally like the opposites attract, and they're no longer married. So I don't know if that's the reason why, but for sure, I really do lean into my introversion as I get older. How do you categorize your friendships? Work friends, neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. Do you mix them? I don't. I don't think I categorize them, Jan. I think however they enter my life is however they enter, whether it's through a workspace, whether through it's a friendship or an introduction. I don't categorize folks. I do have an inner circle though that I absolutely are the people I trust the most would be in those inner circles. All right. So in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Thank you for all of your questions. Authenticity is my next prompt. Ask me any questions around authenticity. What does being authentic look like for you? Great question, Lena. As a man of color, and I learned this in my journey. I became a CEO after I left Pima College. I was a CEO of a small nonprofit for about 3 years, and I felt or thought, Lena, that I was being authentic. Um, I helped the organization grow in revenue in the 3 years that I was there, almost doubling it from the year before I started there. And COVID year was 2020, and I was let go. And it was based on something that I shared, and I won't go into all the details because I want to make sure I answer as many questions as I can. But I believe, or what I learned after being let go was that in my 3 years there, because it was my first time working in nonprofits, first time as a CEO, that I was never my authentic self. And so, what I mean by that is the higher I got into these spaces, the wider the space got. And it wasn't designed for people of color, these leadership spaces, particularly in the US. And having to navigate that was really difficult. So what authenticity looks like to me, Lena, is where I can be as much of myself as I can, which honestly is why I'm now at For the Hood doing it full time. Because in this space, I get to do, because my business aligns with my values, I feel I have much more leeway to be authentic, leeway to be myself, leeway to speak up for myself. Lorraine asks, what moment in your life made you feel the most authentic? Um, That's a great question, Lorraine, and I have the answer. So, part of my business at For the Hood is I created a space for people of color, and I call it the 3 Rs. It's a space for them to be authentically real, to reconnect with other leaders of color, and to reclaim every part of who they are. Because, as I just said a second ago, we're often asked or expected, I would say, to shed some of the things that I feel make us great leaders to fit in a space that wasn't designed for us. I started to feel my most authentic when I would hear the stories of the people in the groups, which is about 10 people per group, sharing stories of how the program made them feel more authentic, feel that they could be themselves. And I couldn't help but learn as the guided facilitator to to be more of that myself, advocating for myself, advocating for whether it was like a bartering for like a conference that didn't pay speakers, but saying, hey, well, if you don't pay speakers, can I get this? Can you give me an exhibiting booth? I would never have done that prior to the program that I created. And so even though I'm the guided facilitator, I can't help but learn from these groups. So I would say that was the most authentic that I've felt, and it continues to grow. Allison asks, what are some ways you reconnect with your authentic self when you feel off track? Um, oh, that's a good one too, Allison. Uh, Man, what are some ways that I reconnect with my authentic self? It's probably just ensuring that I'm balanced, that I do fun things, that I do the things that I like to do. I play basketball like I played this morning. So anytime that I get to just have fun and be myself, are good reminders and not getting discouraged. I love that question, Allison, because I think about not getting discouraged because I'm on this journey. I'm clearly not making what I made when I had my day job and just living in the moments of those. But Frank, you're getting to do what you were meant to do, and you're getting to meet people, and you're connecting with people, and you're just building. It's like you're planting seeds, and just let it go. And those little reminders, whether it's through meditation or, as I said, just simple of sitting down and being just reflecting on like how much has been accomplished, Frank, in the last 11 weeks that you didn't accomplish before. You're growing your business, and so those are great reminders for me. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Again, in the interest of time, I'm keeping track. All right. This one is courage. So Sonia asked, she came on late, but I'll just let you know really quick. We're doing a question game. So you ask me any types of questions and I'm here to answer them so that you can learn more about me. So I'm going to take what you wrote and it says what Frank does for a living. So it actually lines up with this prompt perfectly. So in November of 22, I took the leap. I had started my day job March of that year and really was, as I just explained to you in the slide before, when I left the nonprofit or when I was let go, it really caused a lot of reflection. And one of it was not feeling authentic. Another one was like, man, I did not have the network that I wish I had for people who look like me, that I could reach out to and talk with and strategize with and just, vent with, because I can't talk to the board and I can't talk to my staff because I'm the CEO. It's a very lonely space. And so in all of those reflections, um, I remember was again the fall of 22. I started to have like one-on-ones with leaders of color in my community, and just asking them, "Hey, I have this idea of creating the space just for people of color, no more than 10 people in a group to keep it intimate, but where we get to talk about the things that we uniquely have to face, the stressors we have to face, microaggressions, code switching, bias of professionalism, effects of assimilation." And to a T, everybody was like, Frank, we don't have that. You should create it. That began the journey into creating my business. So I launched For the Hood in November of 22. The funny thing about this picture is that I had the name on my license plate before I had the name of the business, and I just knew this needed to be the name of the business. And so I was really happy. So that's what I do for a living, Sonia, in the sense of like how my business came to be. I have three lanes. I focus on language, leadership, and equity. Today's presentation, I really get to kind of, I think, almost talk at least two of the three of them, leadership and equity. But that's what I do for a living. And okay, so Lorraine asks, is courage something you were born with or something you had to build? Really good question. If you're asking Frank, which you are, I don't know if it's something that you're born with, because for my journey, it took some time. I had to feel comfortable in the spaces I was in first to start building that courage. And there's elements in my life where I probably say, oh yeah, I had a little bit of courage. But the way I'm defining courage now is the courage to step out of your comfort zone, to say things that might be hard for certain people to hear. But I often feel if I don't say it and if it's not said, then it's going to have a bad effect. And so I feel like for me, I had to learn how to be courageous, but I learned it through those networks, build and certainly the cohorts of these people in my Ascending Leaders in Color program. Um, Thank you, Lorraine. So, what situation most challenges your courageousness? Oh my gosh, what situation? I would say, and again, I say this with respect because I'm not here to talk about people's political leanings or whatnot. So let me approach it from a familial standpoint. So a couple of my family members do support the current administration, and that challenges me because I love them, and I've done this presentation once before. My dad lives in Seattle. I knew I was going to Seattle. I had completed a version of this presentation, I think in March, and I knew I had to at least start the process of having that conversation with my dad, because not necessarily about his political leanings. I shouldn't have said it that way, but some of the things that he did that some of the things that he said that were harmful to my ex-girlfriend. I'm not with her now, but I'm dating a black woman as well, and this my ex-girlfriend was black as well. And so just some of those conversations of really wanting to get to a place of where I understand my father and where he understands me. So that I would say is the most challenging. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit, Jan, as well. I'm going to go to one more question. Was there one thing moment that you felt the most courageous? Mm, you know, I don't know. I feel like there's these little, there's like moments that maybe at the time they were the most courageous, but I feel like they keep building on each other. I feel that it's a journey to be courageous. So even if I had a moment, which I'm sure I can name a few, Jen, I think. I think I keep finding those little spaces. Like even talking with you, I'm not going to lie. I feel a little, I feel a little tingly inside because I'm sharing things with a group of folks that I don't really know, but I want to share who I am so that you understand kind of where I'm going with this. Thank you. So I'm going to go to the last slide, and it's joy. So again, please, again, I'll take a few questions on joy. What brings me the most joy? As I mentioned, I'm an extroverted introvert. So I really love the one-on-one conversations that I get to have. So like I look at these pictures, and I just remember just having so much fun in each of these instances where I've been able to talk to these people one-on-one. Many of the, I would say one, two, three, there's about three people, well, one in each slide that have actually gone through my program. So just building those connections even through my program, it just, I don't know. It just brings me a lot of joy where I'm making these connections. And it's really hard for a person who's introverted because I do get really tired. But I'm really aware of the importance of having these people in my life because I would even say that a few of them have offered to help grow my program for free. So they're offering things. So that really brings me joy when I get to hang with these people largely on a one-on-one in a one-on-one way because that's where I feel like we can really learn more about each other. All right, so Jan says joy is something you need to choose. Can you comment on that? Yeah, and I'm going to say it through the lens of the work that I do. So, as I mentioned, I do a lot of work around language, leadership, and equity. So, when Tamara read my bio, it said a lot about advancing equity is pretty much it's my goal is I want to bring generational wealth for people of color because right now that's not equal and it's not equitable at all. So the work that we do for anybody who works in spaces around equity or inequities or nonprofits where you're dealing with different populations that have been historically marginalized, it is heavy, it is hard, it is difficult, and I think about the term Black joy of all the things, and if you're not familiar with that term, look it up. But it's a resilience where Black folks laugh, bring joy to each other in a way that honestly we all should. And that is my remembrance of joy, and it is a choice. The work is hard, but I have to remember to be joyful, and so I find these relationships, find these people in my life so that I can be joyful. All right, so I'm going to move forward. Thank you all for, first of all, because I'm looking at my time. Thank you for asking those questions. And now let's do a little debrief. So, and again, in the chat box, please answer the following. Oh, come on, Frank. There it goes. How did you feel asking me personal questions? And if anybody wants to audibly say this as well, just I guess raise your hand or whatever, and or ask to be unmuted, and Taryn will make sure that happens. Lori says she was excited to hear the answers. Thank you, Lori. Comfortable because you provided a space for that. Thank you, Sonia. I'm very observant, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Anybody else? How did you feel asking me personal questions? Tony wanted to add that joy is different than happiness, so I love that you have joy. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question, again, for the interest in time. What did you learn by asking me questions? Again, what did you learn by asking me questions? That I could apply some of the answers to my life. I learned from everyone by asking questions. The way you interact with those around you, your motivations, challenges. I learned more about why you are doing this work. I learned who you are. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go to the next one again for the interest of time. Which types of questions were more powerful than others? So I gave you all those arrays, yes or no questions, why, what, how, when, which, who. Which ones were the more powerful? The ones that made me think about the answer would be the why questions for sure. The other one I would probably say, since I'm not seeing it pop up, would be the what questions. So I did get a lot of yes or no questions. I expanded on them, but I could have just answered it with a yes or no. Uh, so yes, the what, the why, the hows are the ones that were the most powerful. And why do you think those questions, the what, the why, and the how questions might be more powerful than the other questions? And I think I just kind of fed you the answer. What do the why, how, and what questions do? Yep, right there, Autumn. Gives us more personal insight. It's digging deeper. Uh, Open-ended questions. I see Taryn wrote more details. They're open-ended, absolutely. So I'm going to go through this slide because again, I'm keeping an eye on my time. Uh, yes, the why and the how are probably the most powerful questions, and the what's are close behind. The less powerful ones are going to be the who, when, where, which, yes or no questions. What I also notice, and this typically happens when I do this session, is that that first slide with the grandmothers, the questions are, I think it's more of like, you don't know what to ask yet. But if you noticed, as I went through each prompt, your questions got deeper. And so that's the other reason as when these why and these how questions show up, it's when you're starting to feel comfortable to ask them. So again, the why, the how, and the what questions are probably the most powerful. And as Jennifer said, yeah, it creates dialogue, and Latoya, it makes you give a more thought, gives you more thought to an answer, to an answer. All right, so I'm going to go to the next slide. All right, so here's part two. I'm gonna need somebody brave. So again, in the interest of time, I got 15 minutes, so I need somebody super brave to give me a to volunteer. So and they have to come off mute. So hopefully I have somebody brave who can do this with me. Please, please. Oh, Jan is volunteering but can't figure out how to come off mute. So if we can help Jan, that would be perfect.
Okay.
All right, Jan, can you hear me?
They let me do it. I think that was intentional because I talked too much. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so here's the next part. I got my volunteer. So here's the prompt, Jan. So share about the last time you cried. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a couple of follow-up questions. And
Mm,
then again, in the interest of time, just share a short story about the last time you cried.
boy, I am not a crier. Um, there's good cries and bad cries.
Yeah, and they could be either.
Last bad cry was probably the last time I lost my dogs. Like I had to put them down. Um, I don't cry a lot about people. I don't know. I've had a lot of crying in my should have had crying in my past. Your one story about,
Well,
losing your dad. I lost my husband when he was 42. So, I mean, there's those kind of cries.
well,
But
well, let's stick with the dog. So what was the name of your dog?
um, I always have two. Those two were Riley and Pickles. They went kind of almost together. Um, but I get real emotional about animals.
Mhm.
More so
Well, I can agree with you.
that's like you guys that know me, this is really like sharing. Um,
Yeah, I lost my dog. That was the hardest moment when I had to put my dog down. His name was Gertie. This was 2013, and I think that was probably because I don't have kids, so I think that was probably the thing that was keeping me and my wife together. And when we put him down 2 years later, the relationship was done. So I was very close to my dog as well.
um,
What was your favorite thing about your dog, Riley? And I didn't catch the name of the other one.
Pickles.
Pickles. What
I
was
got,
your favorite thing about both of
I
them?
got Pickles when she was 9 years old. A friend dropped her off in this bizarre story. I was in Sedona then, and she just dropped her off and said, "Here's Pickles. Go play with Riley." And they were both characters in their own right. Riley loved other animals, which is why I was like so attached to him. I'd see him out in the little fence yard with his nose through the fence with a javelina wagging his tail. He had a lizard that he played with that would like run across the fence and he'd chase it and they'd have these games. And just, he was just a kind dog, like everybody liked him. Pickles was just the character, but she was a rat terrier, I think, and she just was. As a matter of fact, she killed Riley's pet lizard, which was horrible. I probably cried then too. Um, but I guess just I have three stepkids and I have a son, and now I have seven grandkids and six great grandkids. Okay, I'll tell you a lot about where I've been.
Well,
But they got me through COVID. I think animals, again, like even the ones I have now, the ones I had then, living by yourself, they're just, you know, they
yeah.
listen or appear to. you know?
Well, thank you, Jan, for sharing this. And I don't mean to cut us short, uh,
No.
but I'm thank you for sharing. Honestly, thank you for sharing that. So again, in the interest of time, I'm going to move us through. But again, Jan, thank you for sharing the story about Riley and Pickles. Let's do a quick debrief. How did it? Well, let me ask you, Jan, if you're still on, how did it feel sharing?
Um, it, okay. It's okay. And I think the safety of Zoom makes it
Mhm.
easier to share, because you don't have that physical space
Right.
between your face and the other person. So,
Okay. My next question to you, Jan, why were you open to sharing?
um, I'm always open. If you share with somebody, you're going to get stuff shared back. There's a connection. People will get to know you more.
Cool. And my next question, Jan, is what helped you be open?
That they unmuted me.
Anything else help you be open?
I've always been too open. It's part of something I have to work on, I guess.
Well, I appreciate that. So my next two questions are to the entire group. How might being curious help in today's climate? So again, use a chat box, throw it out there. How might being curious help in today's climate? Make personal connections to understand others, to create connection. Oh, great answers. Learn from other perspectives. Great. So here's my next question. Allison, I see that less judgment, making assumptions. If everyone was curious, there would be less judgment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, my next question is what might have made it easier today for Jan to participate now than had I done this in the beginning? So again, what might have made it easier for Jan to participate now than had I asked her this right at the get-go? Tamara said I shared. Yep. Yep. You already said it. That I shared, I set the vibe, I set a good example, created some trust, and me being open allowed Jan to do the same. Absolutely. And do you remember specifically what I did at the beginning, even before I shared? What did I do before I shared as well? Does anybody remember? If you don't know, I think you do, but I'm asking a lot and I'm moving us through time. Yes, I introduced myself, but I created those agreements. I told you, oh, I speak really fast at the beginning. Oh, I'm authentic. I'm committed to being authentic. I did all of those things. And then I had you share some of your own. What is going to make this successful? Somebody said like, oh, let's make sure that we're having fun. Those are called circle agreements. And so what circle agreements are, they're a set of shared guidelines that really ensure, oops, this happens every time I do this presentation. I don't know why it skips to the next slide. So I'm going to try to go back to it. But yes, shared guidelines. We created this at the beginning. So again, circle agreements are a set of shared guidelines to ensure respectful and productive dialogue. It allows us, in this case right here, where every voice can be centered, where every voice can be heard, and where every voice is valued. That is the beauty of circle agreements, is that when we know that we have these shared guidelines, it allows us to have what I call courageous conversations. And, right now, we've been at odds with each other for a while. Even before this recent election, it's been tough. And what I say about that is when it's tough, I mentioned my dad, I mentioned my sister, it's hard because we love these people. And because we're at odds, it often leaves us feeling hopeless, helpless, and isolated. And honestly, we weren't designed to move in this world on our own. We do need each other. And the first step is what y'all kind of said is being curious. And so what being curious looks like, or what it does, is it really does stimulate conversation. It helps provoke thought. And I won't read all of these, but I'll read some of them. It opens new possibilities. It channels attention. And I think somebody said earlier, but it touches a deeper meaning. So I want to quickly share a story. I know it's 11:45, but I promise I will keep this short, that inspired this keynote. A couple months ago in one of our circles, we were having a discussion because it was the first meeting after the inauguration. And people were feeling a certain way. And I wanted to make sure that I created space to have the conversation and not just go into our regularly scheduled programming. And so people were sharing how they were feeling, the fear, the hurt, and using language, not like bad language, but maybe just a heightened sense of language that made them feel safe in the space to share these stories. Now, mind you, my group are all people of color, but I'm not here to act like I know whether or not they all have the same political leanings, thinking, whatever. So one of the guys, after people were sharing, kind of expressed like, this is why I didn't want to come today. I'm not a supporter of Trump, but I do believe in some of the conservative values, da da da. It feels like you all are using language. I don't feel like this is a safe space for me anymore. And it was really hard to hear, but as he was talking, again, part of our agreements are there's no judgments. And I wanted to make sure that he said what he wanted to say and that he felt heard. And so as he would kind of finished up, I'm looking around because I'm like thinking, all right, Frank, and again, I feel like I'm a good facilitator, but at the same time, you want to make sure that it doesn't go sideways. And so what I ended up doing was, and he happened to be sitting next to them. Every time we meet, we go over the circle agreements before we start the conversation. It's just a reminder and a review of, are we okay with these agreements? So I asked him, I said, let's look at the agreements really fast. And I pointed out the first two. And these are the actual agreements. And I said, first of all, I said, when we're in this space, everybody's is we want them to speak from their heart, because often it's the only place that they can speak unfiltered. And I told him, I said, so that's not going to change. And he immediately knew that. He agreed. He was like, yeah. And I said, and the other thing, I said, but that goes both ways. I said, that because he had said he almost wasn't going to show up that day. And then he said last second decided to. I said, that means we want you to speak from your heart as well. And then also listening from the heart. So very quickly, as we are going through this, people said, hey, can we add some more things to it? And I said, oh, absolutely. So they did. So they added, I'm sorry, I forgot these two slides are already there, but here's what they added: courage to speak your truth. And then the next one was, I think it was a highlight of people were saying it was a reminder of not only keeping an open mind, but keeping an open heart, being respectful of other perspectives. And then my one favorite on the bottom, ask for clarity, and then be curious. They literally said, let's be curious. That's one, again, that I stand on. So again, let me go really quick back to this slide, and I promise I got 2 minutes. Somebody said, can we add agree to disagree? I had a reaction to it, and I didn't want to give it to them right away by saying what my reaction was. But as I went through it, I was like, look, because then I was like, are we okay, with these agreements that we have? And then somebody was like, no, we still need to add it. And so at that point, I did feel like I had to intervene. And I said, here's why I don't want to write it. First of all, we review these at the beginning of every conversation. And if it's up there and it says we agree to disagree as one of those agreements, we're giving ourselves permission to hear, but not listen. And that I didn't want us to do that. I want us to be in a space where we can actually listen. And so I'm going to go a quick recap. I know I'm on the clock here. Being curious, ask questions for deeper connections, establish agreements to have courageous conversations. And the goal is not to agree. It's not to agree to disagree, but to hear others and feel heard ourselves. And to close, here's my challenge to you. Be curious, so you can have these conversations with folks, and you can create the container to have courageous conversations by establishing these circle agreements and to have the hard conversation. You'd be surprised who shows up in your circle. They likely will want they've likely been waiting for this conversation as long as you have. So I have a couple of slides here, but I really just want to kind of move through because I know my time is up and I want to be respectful of that. So thank you so much. I really appreciate the time that you've given me to open up today's conference.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you, Frank, for being our keynote speaker. A lot to work with, some of the things I'm going to take back to my work. Just working united. I think what happens is we get in our little silos and we stop thinking about that there's another opinion and other sides over there. So thank you very much for being part of this. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day for this.
Thank you. And if you don't mind, if I could put like a little thing in the chat box, if anybody wants to give me
Perfect.
feedback, that's helpful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Frank. Have a great day.